another, and he did not wish to be. If one leased a field from another, and he did not wish to weed it, and he says to him, "What concern is it of yours since I'm paying for my rental?" We do not listen to him, since he can say to him, "Tomorrow you will withdraw from it, and it will grow weeds for me." If one leased a field from another, and it did not produce, if there is enough in it to put in a heap, he is obligated to cultivate it. Rabbi Yehuda says, "What kind of measure is a heap? Rather, if there is as much as it was sown." And if one leased a field from another, and locusts devoured it, or was swept by storm, and it was widespread calamity, he may deduct from his rent. If it is not widespread calamity, he may not deduct from his rent. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if he leased it from him for money, in either case, he may not deduct from his rent.
Okay. Zayin, Hamakabel Sade Mechavero Ba'aseres Korim Chitzin Shana. So he, excuse me. So he does the flat rate rental thing where he's going to pay 10 cores of wheat for the use of the fields for the year. So he's going to be farming wheat, and of his crop he's going to give 10 cores to the landlord. Lakasa, now there was it was a bad year. It didn't rain well. Okay, and his field didn't come out well, whatever it is. No, he still gives him the same grain, even though it's inferior grade grain. He still pays him from that field. If, however, he took extra care, he put down extra fertilizer, and the grain that came out of his field was super high quality, he can't say, okay, I'll take my grain and sell it and buy cheaper grain from the shuk and give it to the landlord, because the landlord has the right to the grain that grew in that field. So whether it's for better or for worse, he pays the landlord with grain from that field. Okay. So the deal was that he said he was going to farm barley in the field. Now he gets the field and he changes his mind. He says, you know what, I'd rather farm wheat. He cannot do that. Why? Because wheat is a more demanding crop than barley, and it takes more out of the field. So it takes more nutrients out of the soil, whatever the cheshbon is. But this is what the Mishna is telling us, is that it's a known thing among farmers that wheat sucks a lot more out of the field than barley. So therefore, he cannot do that. However, if he originally agreed to do wheat, then he's allowed to plant barley, because barley is less demanding in the field. So therefore, this, by the way, has to be in a case where he's paying a flat rental, because otherwise, if it's percentages, then the owner can want barley. He's got to say that it's got to be something that he produces. He doesn't take away from the rental that he's going to give to the owner. Okay, so Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees. He says that no, if your original agreement was chitin, then you have to farm a chitin. You can't change that. Also, his reason is because it's you're just not allowed to change the agreement without common consent. And secondly, there are different ways in which the barley takes different types of nutrients out of the soil. Maybe the previous year was also barley, and he doesn't know that, and therefore it'll double deplete the soil in a certain way.
Wow.
If he agreed to do tavua, if he did agree to do grain, lo yizra'ena kitnis, then he's not allowed to plant legumes, because legumes are more demanding on the soil. Kitnis yizra'ena tavua. However, if he agreed to do kitnis, then he's allowed to plant other grains in the field, because it's less demanding on the field. But again, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel also, he says, once again, same rationale as the first part of the Mishnah. You can't change from what you originally agreed without common consent. Yeah. Mishnah Tes Hamakabel Sade Mechaver L'Shanim Muato. So he takes the field as a rental, paying a flat rate for it, and so but it's for a few years. Now, what's a few years? That's less than 7. Okay. Lo Yisrael Pishtan. He is not allowed to sow flax, because flax is particularly harmful, and it only really starts to and the roots stay behind for up to 7 years. So if he plants
is the 7 years because of Shemitah?
not because of Shemitah, but because that's just the time that it takes to get rid of the flax roots.
Okay.
The Ein Lo B'Koras Shikma, and you cannot take the beams of the sycamore trees that are in the field, because what he has to ultimately, his agreement is that when he returns the field to the owner, it's got to be in the same condition that he received it. So if he's cutting down beams from the sycamore, it's not going to have grown back within the time that he returns it. However, Kibla Himen and the Sheva Shanim, if he has received it for 7 years, Shana Rishana Yisrael Pishtan, and in the first year he's allowed to sow flax, because then he can then at the end of that year he can harvest the flax and uproot it, and 7 years later the seeds the roots will be gone. But Yesh Lo B'Koras Shikma, and he's also entitled to cut down the beams of the sycamore in that first year, because it was 7 years later the tree will have regrown and it'll be back at its full strength, and it'll be basically, he'll be leaving it the way he found it, at least. Okay, that's it.
Okay, we have Zion Gimel. If one was working with his hands but not with his feet but not with his hands, or even with his shoulder, he may eat. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says he may not eat unless he works with both his hands and his feet. If he was working with the figs, he may not partake of the grapes. With the grapes, he may not partake of the figs, but he may abstain until he reaches the place of the best fruits and eat. Concerning all of these, the rabbi said they may eat only at the time of work, but in order to avoid a loss to the owner, they said the laborers may eat while walking from row to row and when they return from the winepress. Concerning a donkey, it may eat when it is being unloaded. A laborer may eat a cucumber even if it is worth a dinner, or a date even if it is worth a dinner. Reb Elazar Kizma says a laborer may not eat in excess of his wages, and the Chachamim permit it, but maintain that we should teach a person not to be a glutton, lest he shut the door in his face. A person may stipulate. That was it?
Yeah, just 3.
Okay, we have Bava Chama.
Yeah.
We have Chet Dalit. It is inadvisable to clash with a deaf mute, a mentally deranged person, or a minor. If one wounds them, he is liable, but if they wound others, they are exempt. It is inadvisable to clash with a slave or with a woman. If one wounds them, he is liable, but if they wound others, they are exempt, although they must pay later. Should a woman become divorced or the slave freed, they are obligated to pay. If one strikes his father or his mother and inflicts a wound upon them, or if one wounds another on Shabbos, he is exempt from all of them because he is liable for his life. If one wounds his own Gentile slaves, he is exempt from all of them. And if one cuffs another, he must give him a sela. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Roshi ben Galiin, Amana. If he slaps him, he must give him 200 zuz. With the back of his hand, he must give him 400 zuz. And if he pulls his ear, tears his hair, spits at him, and the spittle reaches him, removes his cloak, and uncovers a woman's hair in the street, he must pay 400 zuz. Okay. All right. Now on to
Hold on, no, that's not finished.
Is that 2?
You're not finished. The Mishna Bava is still it has got much more to it.
Oh, you're right. Okay. I'm sorry. This is the general rule. It all depends on his covet, says Rabbi Akiva. Even though the poorest of Jews are looked upon as though they were some of the sons of the noblemen who lost their wealth, for they are the children of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. There was an incident of one who uncovered a woman's hair in the street. She came to Rabbi Akiva, who sentenced him to give her 400 zuz, and said to him, Rabbi, give me time. And he gave him time. He waited for her until he saw her standing at the entrance of the courtyard, and then broke a jug which contained oil worth of Isser in her presence. She uncovered her head and was scooping it up, placing her hand on her head. He set up witnesses against her and came before Rabbi Akiva, and he said to him, Rabbi, to this one I should give 400 zuz. Said he to him, you have said nothing, because if one wounds himself, although he may not, he is exempt. Yet if others wound him, they are liable. And if one cuts off his own shoots, although he may not, he is exempt. Yet if others cut off his shoots, they are liable. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Nazir. Okay. Hey, babe. If he said, the gold dinner that comes up in my hand shall be sacred. And a silver one came up, and Rabbi Shammai said, it is sacred. But Beis Hillel says, it may not be sacred. If he says, the barrel of wine that comes to my hand first shall be sacred, and a barrel of oil came to my hand, Beis Shammai said, it is sacred. But Beis Hillel says, it is not sacred. Someone who vowed to be a Nazir and petitioned the sage to declare it binding, he counts from the time the vow was made. If he inquired of a sage who permitted it, and if he had an animal set aside, he may go out and pasture with the flock. Beis Hillel said to Beit Shammai, do you not admit that here, where the consecration is in error, that it goes out and pastures with the flock? Beit Shammai said to them, do you not admit that if someone erred and called the 9th the 10th, and the 10th the 9th, and the 11th the 10th, and that each is sanctified? Beis Hillel said to them, no, it is the rod that makes it sacred. What if he erred and placed the rod upon the 8th or the 12th?
It's not the rod. It's not the rod that makes it sacred.
Right, right. What if he erred and placed the rod upon the 8th or the 12th? He has perhaps affected anything. Has he affected anything? Rather, Scripture, which has sanctified the 10th, also sanctified the 9th and the 11th. Someone who viewed to be a Nazir, when he went to bring his animal, he found that it had been stolen. If he declared himself a Nazir before the animal had been stolen, he is a Nazir. If he declared himself a Nazir after the animal had been stolen, he is not a Nazir. And when this error was made by Nachum the Mid, when a group of Nazirim came up from the diaspora and found the temple destroyed, Nachum the Mid said to them, if you had known that the temple would be destroyed, would you have vowed to be Nazirim? They answered him, no. So Nachum the Mid released them. But when the matter came before the Chachamim, they said to him, anyone who declared himself a Nazir before the temple was destroyed is a Nazir. After the temple was destroyed, he is not a Nazir. Okay. And we have Skull, Kaf Aleph. They may convert the skull into darkhans to lighten the burden of the way. Just as there were collection chests in the temple, so were the collection chests in the provinces. If the townspeople sent their half shekels and were stolen, and they were stolen and lost, then, if the truma had already been withdrawn, their messengers must swear in the presence of the treasurers. But if not, they must swear in the presence of the townspeople, and the townspeople must contribute another other half shekels in their stead. If the missing half shekels were subsequently found, or if the thieves returned them, then these and those are consecrated as half shekels, we have not credit to them for the following year. One who gives his half shekel to a colleague to contribute for him, but the colleague contributed to it for himself, if the truma had already been withdrawn, it is misappropriated. One who contributes his half shekel from concentrated funds, if the truma had already been withdrawn and the animal bought with his money had already been offered, he has misappropriated. If one paid his half shekel with Misa Sheni funds, or with Shemitah funds, he must eat food brought with other money as an equivalent value. And if one collected coins and said, let these be my half shekel, Beis Shammai said the remainder is placed in the collection chest marked donative offering. Beis Hillel said the remainder is unconsecrated. If he said, I will bring my half shekel from these funds, they concur that the remainder is consecrated. If he said these funds will go for the purchase of a sin offering, they concur that the remainder is placed in the collection chest marked native offering. If he said, I will bring an animal purchased from these funds for a sin offering, they concur the remainder is unconsecrated. Okay. And we have.
All right, last question.
Okay. The milk of a woman will cause susceptibility to tumah, whether its emergence is of one's satisfaction or is not to one's satisfaction. The milk of an animal will only cause susceptibility to tumah if its emergence is one's satisfaction. Rabbi Akiva said the matter can be proven, though, through a kal v'choma. If the milk of a woman, which is intended only for children, will cause susceptibility to tumah, whether its emergent was to have one's satisfaction or was one not to have one's satisfaction, then animal milk, which is intended for both children and adults, is it not logical that it should cause susceptibility to tumah, regardless of whether its emergent was one to one's satisfaction or was not to one's satisfaction? The Chachamim said to him, not so. For the milk of a woman that did not emerge to one's satisfaction generates susceptibility to tumah. It is because the blood of her wound causes susceptibility to tumah. But the milk of an animal that did not emerge to one's satisfaction likewise generates susceptibility to tumah, when the blood of its wound does not cause susceptibility to tumah. Rabbi Akiva said to them, I am more stringent regarding milk than I am regarding blood, for if one expresses milk for therapeutic reasons, the milk will cause susceptibility to tumah. But if one lets blood for therapeutic reasons, the blood will not cause susceptibility to tumah. And the Chachamim said to Rabbi Akiva, the law concerning baskets of olives or grapes will serve as proof. For if liquids ooze from one basket to the other satisfaction, they will cause susceptibility to tumah. But if liquids ooze not to his satisfaction, they will not cause susceptibility to tumah. He said to them, no, not so. If you say those concerning baskets of olives and grapes, it is because in the beginning the fruits were food, and in the end the liquid was oozes is a beverage. Will you say the same concerning milk? The beginning and the end of which was a beverage? Until this point was the response. Until this point was the response. Rabbi Shimon said, from here on we will answer in his presence as follows. Rainwater will serve as proof since the beginning, and in the end it is a beverage, and yet it does not cause susceptibility to tuma unless it emerged to one's satisfaction. He said to us, not so. If you say that thus concerning rainwater, it is because the majority of rainwater is not for the benefit of the people, but for the benefit of land and trees, and the majority of milk is for the benefit of people.
Zabim.
Okay. Regarding someone who had one zav emission, Beis Shammai says he is like a woman who observes a day free of uterine discharge, corresponding to the day on which he experienced a uterine discharge. But Beis Hillel says he is like someone who had a seminal emission. If he had one zav emission, and on the second day he stopped, and the third day he had two emissions, and one emission that is Metzia as two, Beis Shammai says he is full of zav. But Beis Shimon said he conveys tumah to couches and seats and requires immersion in a spring, but he is exempt from an offering. But Elazar ben Yehuda said Beis Shammai agree in this case that he is not a full zav. And regarding what do they disagree? Regarding someone who has two zav emissions or one emission, that is his length is two. And on the second day he stopped, and on the third he had one emission, in which case Beis Shammai say he is full of zav, but Beis Hillel say it conveys tumah to couches and seats and requires immersion in the spring, but he is exempt from an offering. Regarding someone who has a seminal emission on the third day of his zav account, Beis Shammai says he forfeits the two preceding days. Beis Hillel says he has forfeited only that day. Rabbi Ishmael says one who has a seminal emission on the second day of his zav account forfeits the preceding day. Rabbi Akiva says both someone who has a seminal emission on the second day and someone who has a seminal emission on the third day. Beis Shammai says that he has forfeited the two preceding days, and Beis Hillel says that he has forfeited only that day. And they agree in a case where one has a seminal emission on the fourth day that he has forfeited only that day, but only when he has an emission of semen. But if we had a zav emission even on the seventh day, he has forfeited all the preceding days. Okay. And Arachin. The houses of the open towns are accorded to the advantages of the houses of walled cities, and the advantages of fields, they may be redeemed immediately, and they may be redeemed for his entire 12 months like houses, and they go out in Yovel and with the deduction of money like fields. They are houses of open towns, two courtyards consisting of two houses each, even if they're surrounded by a wall from the time of Yeshua ben Nun, are judged as houses of open towns. If a Yisrael inherited from his maternal grandfather, a Levi, he does not redeem according to this order. And so too, if a Levi inherited from his maternal grandfather, Yisrael, he does not redeem according to this order. As it says, for the houses of the critics, for the houses of the cities of the Levium, unless he is both a Levi and in the cities of the Levium, these are the words of the Rebbe. The sages, however, say these matters were stated only concerning the cities of the Levium. We may not make a field into a clearing, nor a clearing into a field, not a clearing into a city, nor a city into a clearing. Eliezer says, to what does this apply? To the cities of the Levium. But in cities belonging to Israel, we may make a field into a clearing, but not a clearing into a field. And we may make a clearing into a city, but not a city into a clearing, lest they destroy the cities of Israel. Kohanim and the Levium may sell at any time and redeem at any time, as it says, the Levium shall have an eternal right of redemption.
And
we have Tamura. All people can make a Tamura, both men and women. This is not to say that one is permitted to perform a Tamura act, rather that if he did perform a Tamura act, it is effective and he receives 40 lashes. Kohanim can make a Tamura with offering of their own, and Yisrael can make a Tamura with offerings of their own. However, Kohanim cannot make a Tamura with a katis, nor with an ashram, nor with a bachor. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, but why can't the Kohen not make a Tamura with a bachor? Rabbi Akiva said to him, a katos and asham are gifts to the Kohen, and the bakor is a gift to the Kohen. Just like the Kohen cannot make a tamor with a katos or an asham, so too he may not be able to make a tamor with a bakor. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori said to Rabbi Akiva, what difference does it make to me that the Kohen cannot make a tamor with a katos asham, in which the Kohanim receive no rights during the animal's lifetime? Will you say the same regard to a bakor, in which the Kohanim do receive rights during his lifetime? Rabbi Akiva said to him, but it has already been stated, and then its substitute shall be holy. Where did the sanctity revolve upon the original sacrifice? In the owner's house. So too, a Tamora act is effective only when the original offering is in the owner's house.
Okay.
Good, good.
Have a wonderful
Thank you very much.
See you on
You
Sunday.
too. Great Shabbos. Thank you very much for the